Hey there, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. I'm Andrei and today I'm back with a manipulation tutorial. I've been a bit busy because I'm working on a new premium members area. I want to separate it from PSD box. So, I'm actually putting it inside of a subdomain, but anyways. This tutorial is a bit more advanced, and what we're going to see in this video tutorial is how to turn this image of this forest, how to create a night effect. Like you can see here, I have the moon here. I changed the sky, so I'll show you how to mask everything here using calculations, and I'll show you how to use a depth map to create realistic depth of field. You can see the background is blurred, but the tree trunks are not. So I'm gonna show you how you can make the realistic transition from the in focus area to the out of focus area. And we're going to use channels and the lens blur filter. I will also show you how I painted the hair of this woman. Let me zoom in. Part of the hair is painted. I painted it myself. You can see it here, and of course I'm gonna show you how you can create light effects. I'll show you how I created this light effect here and how I casted the lights to make everything look a bit more natural. How I created this dust around, they're in the glow of light, and then how I created this firefly effects there. And that's pretty much it. I'll show you how to cast this light here and how to get this overall color and contrast effect. So I hope you will like this tutorial. I'm using Photoshop CS6, but you can follow me even if you have Photoshop CC, Photoshop CS5, even CS4 or CS3. The only adjustments that I use that are not available in previous versions of Photoshop are the color lookup. Is the color lookup. Let me show you where it is. Here in the background group. I'm using the color lookup adjustment. For previous versions of Photoshop, maybe there's a plugin that actually adds this panel here, but in Photoshop CS6 it comes by default. So if you know your way around Photoshop, you will know how to get this color effect that I'm going to show you how I created with the color lookup. So as I said, it's a bit more advanced, but I hope you will like it, and let's get started. So as usually, we start with the background. Let me open the background image, which is this one. And the first thing we are going to do is mask this, get rid of the sky, but keep the branches here. And to do that, I use the calculations method. This is a technique that I used on another tutorial in Photoshop, but we're going to use it again here. So what you do is go to the channels tab and look at each of the three channels, and usually the blue one is the one that has most contrast. We are lucky here that because the sky is completely overexposed, we have it's completely white, so that way we can extract it a lot easier. So in the channels tab, choose the blue tab, the blue channel, and drag it here to the new layers icon, and that way you can create a duplicate of this alpha channel, of this blue channel. Okay, now go to image and choose calculations from this drop down list, and what you do here with this calculations is you blend channels and layers. So on source 1 we will leave blue copy, which is the one that we just made, and from here on the source 2 you can choose another layer or another channel to blend this blue copy with, and then you can choose which blend mode you want to use. By default it comes to multiply, and what that does is it takes also by default it takes the same channel, I think in this case is blue copy. So we are taking the blue copy and we are blending it with itself using the multiply blend mode. You can change the blend modes. You can choose, for example, add, and you can see what it does. You can also invert this, and if you try for example subtract and then invert one of these, you can see the result that you get, which is even better than using the multiply and then leave it like this, because we have a lot more contrast. Our objective here is to get the trees and the branches and everything to be as black as possible while keeping the sky white. Okay, so I will try to subtract and invert the source 1 channel, and that way you can see I get this sort of high contrast effect. You can try other blend modes and play with the invert and use even the mask to, if you have like a mask already created, you can choose this, and you can choose any of the layers that you have here from even from another document. You can see I have floating woman PSD, and you can see I have this all the layers from the other document here, but I can choose this one, and this is the tab that I have here. The image, by the way, is from Deposit Photos. That's where I got the images to make this manipulation. So okay, let's uncheck mask and leave it like, have the source 1 to blue copy, source 2 to blue copy as well, but we inverted on the source 1, we inverted the channel and chose the subtract blend mode, and click OK. Now the next step is to make this completely black except the sky. So what I will do is select the brush tool, set the opacity and the float to 100%, and if you're not sure if these white spots are actually sky or not, you can select the RGB and take a look, and then go back, and then you can see this line here is sky. We have some sky here as well, but don't worry, this parts, the bottom parts will become black because we will add some darkness there. Let's select alpha 1 with the brush selected. Let's increase the size a bit, and what I will do now is change the blend mode to overlay, because with the overlay blend mode I can paint around here. You can see if I paint here over the white areas, nothing happens because of the overlay blend mode. That's how it works. So that way I can paint around here without worrying too much about the sky. If the sky is not completely white, if it's sort of light gray like here, if you paint over it, well, it's white there as well, it will start to make it darker, so be careful. If it's not white enough, what you can do is press Ctrl Command L. In this image it is, but if you're working with another image, just drag the highlights to the left a bit and you can see you make it even whiter, but be careful because you will start to lose the fine detail. Here on the bottom, I don't need to be very careful with the edges, so I could use the normal blend mode and then switch to the overlay blend mode when I get here. Let me zoom in a bit. See this? I don't want to have this sort of soft effect, so what I will do is I can make the brush smaller and increase the size a bit and paint carefully like that. Okay, something like that. The most important part of this particular image is this one here, which is the part where we will add that moon there. So this left side will most likely crop it after we're done with the manipulations, but anyway, let's make sure everything is okay. Now let's switch back to the overlay blend mode because I have this part of the tree branch here. Let's decrease this hardness a bit, and because I don't want to be very careful with the edges, I can make this part darker while the sky is white. Okay, I think it's okay. We still have this area around here. I have some dots here. I'll show you a trick to, because sometimes you miss some parts of the image. I'll show you how to make sure that everything is correctly masked. after we're done with this. So we have the foreground area here, everything is black, the sky is white, and now we can use this to create our layer mask. What I will do is press and hold the Control or Command key on a Mac and click on this thumbnail of the layer mask. Let's make it, of the alpha channel, sorry. Let's make it a bit bigger with the panel option so you can see it better. Okay, so press the Control key on a PC or the Command key on a Mac and click on the thumbnail of the alpha one, and you can see we selected everything, well, the edges. Now select the RGB channel, the selection is still active. Go to the layers channel and now click the layer mask icon, and you can see, well, it comes up inverted, but press Control Command I and we can invert the layer mask. Now this is the result that we got. It's not perfect, but it saved us a lot of time. I'll show you how to fix this edges. Now what I want to do now is add the new sky so I can see better the edges of this branches here. So press Control Command O again and open my sky, which is this one. It's again from Deposit Photos, and create a new layer underneath by pressing the Command key and clicking on the new layers icon. And now I'll make this a bit bigger like that. I'm doing this quite quickly, resizing, pasting and everything. As I said, I'm not going to spend time explaining how to do that. You should know how to do that. But okay, so if I zoom in, you can see the edges here are not, this is far from being perfect, so we can fix this. What I did, since I know this is going to be a dark scene, I know this will be dark, the edges, so and the only thing I want to see, well, the only things I will see here are the silhouettes of these branches. So what I will do is double click on the layer of the foreground, let's call this layer, and double click on it and choose inner shadow. Make sure the distance is set to 0 and then increase the size a bit. Okay, increase the size and change the blend mode. Well, you can leave it to multiply or normal or whatever you want. And instead of using black, you can use a dark green like this. Okay, and let's see if we increase the size even more. But I want to use a darker tone of green like that. Now let me show you that trick that I told you. I just saw a part of this tree trunk that is not correctly masked. So what you can do is activate the stroke, and let's use a red color like so, and increase the size a bit. And now whatever you see, well, in this case it's correctly masked, but if you see some parts of the image that are not, well, right here I can see one. So this part here is not correctly masked. That's why you can see some of that red through it. So with this red color you can see a bit better areas that are not correctly masked. I will delete the stroke and get the brush tool and make sure I paint this area with the brush tool. Make sure you change the overlay blend mode to normal here on the brush, and oops, switch colors and just paint over this area like that. Also make sure that your screen is clean because I have a lot of dirt on my screen, so I have to continuously move the image around so I can see better if it's actually a dust spot on the screen or it's the mask. By the way, I activated the mask on full screen by pressing the Alt key and clicking on the mask itself on the layer thumbnail. Okay, now we have this mask, we fixed the edges, we went from this to this, and let's add our moon there. So let's open again our stock folder, and this is the image that I used. It's again from deposit photos. I only need the top part, so I'll select it like that. Control C to copy it, and I'll paste it between the two layers. Let's name this sky. Paste that there. I'll probably have to make it smaller. Just a little smaller. Yeah, like that. Okay. And let's delete, well, hide the foreground layer for a second. Create a layer mask for the moon layer. Get the brush tool, use a soft brush and a big brush like this, and paint on the layer mask with black to smoothen the edges, but make sure the opacity is to 100%, and you paint with black. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Let's see how it looks. It looks good. Okay. Great. Now have our moon there. Maybe I'll move it a bit higher up. Well, you can leave it there on top, but I wanted to have it here to see it between these trees here, this hollow spot there, this spot here. Okay, now it's time to make it look like it's dark outside, and for that I used, on top of the sky layer, I created a gradient layer, and I used the black to transparent. Let's reset our gradient. So I used black to transparent. I changed the style to radial, and I reversed it like that. I think it's not black actually. I think this is a blue. Yeah. Make sure it's black. Okay. And I increased the scale to 300%. Of course, the amount, well, the scale depends on the size of your canvas. I used 300% because it looked okay for my image here. If you want to know where the center is, you can use a small radius. Localize the center of the gradient, and then increase it. Center it where you want where you want it to be, and then increase the size to about 350%, more or less. That way we have this sort of a vignetting effect. See that? And I could actually desaturate this part of the moon there because it's too saturated, and maybe use levels to increase a bit the contrast. Yeah, something like that. Okay, great. Now let's move on and create another gradient on top of the foreground, well, on top of everything. Create another gradient. Well, we can actually duplicate this one, pressing and holding the Alt key, but this time I want to move it a bit and maybe use a smaller scale, about 330. And you can see you can move it around, but you have to have this opened, otherwise you cannot move it. I'm gonna have the light, well, the center of it a bit lower than on the sky. That way I create more darkness here on the edges, on the corners, but not here on the center, which is where my floating woman will be. And click OK. Now notice that once you click OK, you cannot move this around. You have to double click here, open this small panel, and then you can move this around. Okay, let's leave it there and click OK. And let's move on and create a new layer, and let's name this layer darkness. On this layer I will paint with the brush tool. I'll use a really soft brush, and I'll change the size on as I paint, and then decrease the opacity to about 20, and the flow as well. The opacity and flow as well to about 20%. We'll see, maybe we'll change it. And with this brush tool, just paint around here. Of course, we want the background, the far end of the forest, to be darker than this big trees here. Okay, so also the also the top okay, also the top part of the trees, make it a little darker, but this color is not right because I'm using a blue tone and I don't want that. Okay, let's do it again. Maybe the opacity and flow 20, it's a bit too much. Make sure you decrease the spacing a bit. You create smoother shadows. Let's drop this to about 15, and again the flow as well to 15. And paint between these two trees to make that part of the forest darker, and of course this one here. If you don't want to affect the sky, you can clip this, drag this under this and just clip it, and that way you only paint on the trees themselves and not on the sky, because the sky, at least parts of the sky where it's closer to the moon, it should be well illuminated by the moon, so we don't want to paint that. We do want to paint in this one, on this tree here, the right side, to make it just a little darker than the left side, because on the left side we'll have that lamp here and we want to create sort of a light glow there, so the parts of the trees that are facing the light should be a bit brighter than the opposite side. Okay, let's paint it like this. This could be a bit tricky if you don't have like practice painting lights. You don't need a tablet for this. I'm using Wacom Intuos 5, but you don't need it. You can do it with the mouse just fine. Okay. After you paint this, if you don't like it, like for example, I don't want this part here, you can choose the eraser tool, and again use a really soft, really low opacity and flow, 20 and 20, and increase the size and just remove the effect here. You could work with layer masks, but I don't think it's necessary, so I worked with the eraser tool. Okay. Okay, I think it looks nice. You can see the before and after. Maybe this part is too dark here, so I'll use the eraser to remove some of that darkness and then paint back some of it on some areas. Okay, so that's how I painted this part here. Well, we improved a bit the light here, but we're not done. We need to work a bit more here. So what I did next is I added some adjustment layers to make it look a bit better. The first thing that I did is I added a hue saturation adjustment, and I lowered the saturation to -63 to just get rid of some of the colors. Then I added a gradient map. This will also help to create that dark effect, that night effect there. And the gradient, the colors that I use for the gradient are, for the shadows, I used the color this one, so this dark blue. And for the highlights, I used another color with the code this yellow. Okay, so these are the colors that I used for this gradient. Then I changed the blend mode of this gradient to soft light, and I decreased the opacity to 40%. The settings that you use, you can see the opacity value and all of these values depend on how you painted this. If it's too dark, like in my case, you can decrease the opacity. Let's say to about 30%. Okay, so it all depends. It depends on how you made the other effects. Make sure it's just not too dark or too bright. Then I added a color lookup, and this is the adjustment that I said that it's probably not available on all Photoshop versions. And I used a preset called a drop blues. Let's see if I can find it, this one. What it does is, let me deactivate the hue saturation so you can see it better. It desaturates the blue colors, so you can use the hue saturation also if you don't have this. Go inside the blues and decrease the saturation a bit and increase the lightness just a touch. Okay, that's how you can get a similar effect to what I did here with the color, with the drop blues. And I left it to 51%. Then I added another color lookup, and this time I used another preset called Edgy Amber. Okay, so what you do here is create this tone of orange. I guess you can also do that if you use a solid color and choose an orange tone and maybe use the color blend mode or some blend mode that gives you a similar effect to what I have here. And the blend mode that I used here is hard light, and the opacity to 13%. Okay, this is how I got this dark effect on the forest. Then more adjustments. I added a curves adjustment, and I went into the channels and I created, for the blue channel, I created sort of a split tone effect where I increased the blue tones in the shadows and I added some yellows on the highlights. See the effect? Great. And then the greens, I left them how they are, and then I went to the red channel, and again I added a point about here and then another one about here. I dragged it a little higher up, and I created sort of a NAS curve. Okay, and you can see the before and after, without the curves and with the curves. So just small changes. And now it comes another adjustment, which is the selective color. I used this adjustment only to work on the neutrals and on the blacks, because I wanted to add on the neutrals a different tone. So these are the values that I have. So I have -3 for the cyan, 0, +3 on the yellow, and then 0. Okay, so I add a bit more of yellow on the neutrals, and on the blacks I have +2, -1, -3, and on the black I have -2. So I added a bit of light. That's why I added negative values on the black, on this bottom slider. I mean, not on the blacks, on the black slider. Okay, putting negative values, you add more light there. Okay, -2. Okay, so this is the effect without and with the selective color. So we're pretty much there. The last adjustment that I added is a solid color, and this is an adjustment, a technique that I used with this adjustment on many of my manipulation tutorials. It consists of, on selecting a color like this, really dark, almost black, here between the magenta and the blue, something about here, maybe towards the blue a bit more. Click OK, and then change the blend mode of this to exclusion, and this is the effect that you get. It's too strong, so what I will do is double click here to open again the color picker, and simply select a darker tone, and that's it. You can see it's pretty close to the black. Okay, but yeah, if you deactivate it, you'll see the difference. Okay, so these are all the adjustments that I made to my background. Okay, so you can see I have quite a few layers for the background alone. Let's select everything, press Ctrl Command G to group this, and let's name this background. Okay, so now we are ready to add our woman and the light effect. Okay, so our background is ready. It's time to make the light and that lamp here and the book. And after that we will add the woman, because it will be a lot easier to make the lighting on the woman once we have the light source here. So what I will do is go to the original document and just get the lamp from there, because I will not spend time cropping it from the background. As you can see, it's on a white background. Let me deactivate the layer mask so you can see it. Okay, so it's really easy to extract it from the background. So this is the lamp. I'll drag it to my other document right here, and you can see it's really big. So what I'll do is convert it into a smart object, just in case I need to change its size, and I'll make it about, let's see, 6% of the original size. Let me put it there and zoom in at 100%. Now, one problem that we have here is that you can see the lamp itself is really sharp, and the background is somehow, well, a bit out of focus or not that sharp. And what I did to kind of make it look like it's there is I added some Gaussian blur. So I went to filter, then choose blur and Gaussian blur, and a really small amount, just 0.4 or something like that, 0.35. See that? Let me zoom at 100% so you can see it better. Okay, so without the blur and with the blur, I don't know if it's visible on the video, but it looks a bit better. So I'll put it right here. Well, I'll leave it like that. I wanted to rotate it a bit, but I'll leave it there like it is. Okay, and now a few things we need to do here. First is the shadows. So I'll first add an inner shadow. Well, we'll add the inner shadow a bit later. Let's create another layer below the lamp and name it shadow. And now get the brush tool, and here you need to look a bit at the shadows that we already have on our scene here. You can see right here on the right side, right here as well. You can even sample a color from there. You'll see that it's not completely black. Okay, and use a really really low flow and opacity, and a soft brush, and just paint a shadow like this under the lamp itself. Maybe for the shadow that is right here, right underneath it, I'll use about 50% opacity. Let's see how that looks. Maybe it's too strong. No, because I have the flow to just 20. Okay, let me show the before and after, just like that, and then decrease the opacity to about 20. I'll zoom out a bit and increase the brush size. I'll make a couple of passes like that. Okay, this is the shadow before and after. Okay, now I have the ground shadow. Let's make the light glow, and that way we can paint the light on the lamp itself. So here you have like two options. that I can think of right now. One is to make it manually using the brush tool, and then using a gradient. I will show you how to make it manually. I'll give you a link to a tutorial where I made this glow when I made the sunlight using a gradient fill. You can do it here as well, but let's do it manually. So create a new layer, let's name it glow, and change the blend mode of it to screen. And we will make this glow from the inside out, from the outside to the inside. Okay, so first we'll make the big glow, and then we'll make it smaller and smaller and brighter as we go towards the center of this lamp here. So get the brush tool, make sure the opacity and the flow are to 100%, and use a really soft brush and a really big one. Well, a really big one, quite big. Bigger, something like this. Okay, even bigger, like that. And now choose a really dark orange tone, really dark, something like this. Let's click there and see what happens. If you want to see if you're pointing to the center here, just press the caps lock key and you'll change to the precision mode, I think it's called. And that way you will see where your mouse is, and then just click once. It's okay, but I want it just a little brighter and a bit bigger. And a bit red, more red. Again, right there. Yeah, something like that, but now it's too red. So you can see it's a bit of a trial and error. And just a touch darker. Okay, that's okay, but maybe a bit higher up, like that. Now, on the same layer, choose another tone, a bit brighter this time, but make the brush a few clicks smaller, and click again, maybe a bit bigger, like that, and click again. Now select a brighter tone, make the brush a few clicks smaller, pressing the default key is the bracket key, but I changed them to the Q and the W keys to change the brush size. So make it a bit smaller, and again another click there in the middle, maybe a bit smaller, like that. And now a little smaller, and choose a brighter tone, saturate it like that. Maybe it's a bit too bright, just a little darker. And now for the last one, choose something even brighter and just make the brush smaller. So this is our glow of light. It looks a lot more realistic than just painting a single brush stroke. So we have it brighter on the center now, and this is the effect. Okay. If you want to change the color of it or the brightness, you can press Ctrl Command U to open the hue saturation, and here you can increase the saturation of it. You can change the tone if you want to make it a bit more orange, or if you a bit more yellow. I like it a bit more orangey, so well, that's too much maybe. Let's leave it to about 3. Okay, so I'll click OK, and that looks nice, but now the lamp itself, it's too bright for my taste. So what I will do is, between the glow and the lantern, let's name this lamp. It's a petrol lamp, I think. I'll double click now and I'll add the inner shadow that I wanted to add. Set the angle to 90 degrees more or less. Distance to 5, it's okay. And size, let's say to 15 or something like that. See that? Just makes the edges a bit darker. And decrease the opacity just a touch. and click OK. And now I want to paint even more darkness on some spots, so I'll create a new layer and name this dark. Okay, and with the brush tool, paint with black with 20 and 20 flow. I think it's okay. When you paint over objects, even this is too strong, as you can see, paint with pretty low opacities and flow. You can see I clipped this to the lamp itself, that way I don't have to worry about the edges or painting outside the surface of the lamp itself. I just want to darken the opposite parts, well, the parts that are opposite to the light source, just a bit. You'll see that it looks a bit better. Okay, I'll leave the flow and the opacity to 20 and the flow to 10. Okay, especially this part here is too bright for my taste. Keep in mind that this was the lamp itself was photographed over a white background, so we see the reflections of that white background. Okay, so you wanna get rid of some of those reflections, or at least make them a bit darker. Okay, I think that's okay now. It looks a bit better. Let's see, before and after. That's okay. Now we need to paint the highlights, and you will see that it looks a bit better if you paint the highlights. Create a new layer, again clip it to the lamp itself, and let's name it highlights. Okay, change the blend mode to color dodge, and here you need to use an opacity of about, let's see, 40, and the flow again to 40 and 40. Okay, and let's start with this color, really dark and a bit more yellowish, like so. Maybe it's too strong, we'll see. And just paint. That's okay, but well, because we have a low opacity and flow, we can use a brighter tone, because we will gradually build up the effect. So let's try it. Hardness and size of the brush, you can see it here. Hardness to 0. That's too strong. Let's use a darker tone and a bit more yellow. Okay, and what I want to do here is paint, for example, this part of this object here. It's too dark. You'll have to adapt the color of the brush, and also, well, the opacity, don't change it too much, but you have to change the tone here, either more yellow and more bright, and then paint, because some areas with this blend mode, some areas will look different if you paint with yellow than if you paint with orange. Okay, so I want to paint somewhere there, maybe here. See, this here is too strong, so I'll use a darker tone. Even that is too strong. I'm not using the pen pressure, and I don't know why I don't like to use that, even though I should get used to using it, but for some reason I don't like to use it. Okay, now these areas are brighter here, so I need to use a brighter tone again, otherwise it will not be visible. So there's just a few highlights there. Maybe some highlights around here. Again, this is clipped, so even if I paint here, nothing happens. Okay, so that's why I like to work with clipping masks. See, this bottom part of this cap, or whatever this thing is, the part that is facing the light, I paint this highlight here. Believe it or not, it will make things look better. I'm not the best painter in the world, and I still need to learn about light and how to paint this to make them look realistic, but it will look better than not painting anything, so that's why I'm doing it. Okay, I think now it looks okay. We zoom out and show you the before and after. Okay, just a bit of without the shadows and the highlights, and with the shadows and the highlights. Okay, it looks a bit more realistic. Now it's time to cast the light on the background itself, because this lamp, of course, casts some light around there. But before we do that, let's add a bit more depth to this. I will add some dust well, here on this glow. So what I will do is go to my folder and open some dust particles. These are made by myself. I use the flash and some flowers to make this. I made this a few years ago, well, a couple of years ago, I think, back in 2012 or something like that. Let's paint the logo. If you can credit me if you use this image, that will be okay. That will be nice. Let's not save it. And let's paint this here. Now, I only want this dust to be visible around this lamp here. So what I will do is clip this image to the glow. And you can see the glow disappears because I have this set on normal. But if I change this to screen, voila, here you have the dust. See that? Maybe this is too big and too out of focus. But, well, let's make it smaller and see how it looks. I have other dust particles on that pack that I created. Yeah, this one looks better. I just flipped it a bit. If you want to colorize this and give this dust spots some color, you can press Ctrl-Command-U, check colorize, of course select the dust particles layer first, increase the saturation and set this here on this yellow side, and you can see how this turns yellow now. Okay, if I set this back to normal, you will see how it looks. Okay, let's set it back to screen. Great. Now we have the dust. Maybe I would probably delete some of them here, but anyways, let's leave it like that. And let's make the light that this lamp casted light, and I'll drag it under everything here, under the shadow of the lamp itself. And let's change the blend mode of this to color dodge. Get the brush tool, again use low opacity, about 30, and the flow to 30 again. And just like we did here with the highlights on the lamp itself, we will do it here on the background as well. So let's select that layer, zoom out a bit so we have a better view, and use a tone like this. Again, you'll have to change the tone because some brighter areas, if you paint with a yellow color, it will look like it's green almost. So it depends on the area. Here, if you have a bit of training and a bit of practice with lights, you'll find it a bit easier, and if not, you'll have it maybe a bit more difficult to make it look realistic, but it's a matter of practice. So just paint a few lights around there like that. See how it looks on the ground? Looks like I nailed the color on the first try. Okay, see that? As simple as that. And now let's use a brighter tone, and maybe a bit brighter one, to paint some highlights on, well, some details here. Okay, maybe that's too orange, so something a bit more yellowish, like that. Some around here. Okay, that's too much. Let's erase with the eraser tool, because I painted too much around here. Again, you can see I'm using the eraser with the really low setting for the flow and opacity, just 20%. This is one of, especially when you paint lights, if you paint with low opacities, it's a case where less is more, so keep that in mind. That's too red, so I'll probably use the hue saturation to change the tone a bit. Yeah, about there, and click OK. And now for the details, I'll show you how to make this look even more realistic. If you want to create a new layer, just to make sure that you don't mess up, if you're happy with your casted lights, casted highlights. So on this new layer, what I will do is use a brighter tone. Again, use a color dodge and use a really small brush and hardness set to 0 again. And what I did is I just located details, like for example this broken branch here, or this wood piece here, and just paint some highlights like that. But oh, that's too yellow. Let's make it a bit more orange, like so. Just paint a highlight. You need a bit of practice. You can see even for me it's quite okay. That looks better now, but still too yellow. Okay, and locate your details, and the part of that object that faces the light, just paint the highlight on that edge. You'll see how that looks when I'm done. This one here, this part here. See here, it's too orange, so I'll need to use a yellow tone. Paint here, like so. This one here. Even these plants here. This is quite tricky, but you will see that it will look a lot better. A simple line like this will make a difference. You'll see it. The more attention you pay to the details, the better your manipulation will come out, and you will see that it definitely is definitely worth spending the time to take care of these details, because otherwise, well, the details will make your works different than the works of other artists, because otherwise you will have the same thing like anyone else. Okay, let's a couple of passes. You can see because I have this low opacity, I can make several passes, oops, and build up the effect. Let's paint some highlights here as well. Oh, that's too much. I need a smaller brush, sorry. And just a few lines here to make it look like the light hits there. What else here, but with a lower opacity. Oh, that's too bad. I don't like it. Okay, that's better right here. Like so. Where else? We have more details like this right here on this piece of wood, I think it is. So it takes a bit of time to create this light effect, but as I said, it's really worth spending the time to make this. Let's paint here again on this area. That's probably not a really good effect there. Let's get rid of it and paint with a yellower tone. Yeah, that's better. Even this one over here, just a touch. That's probably too strong and maybe too yellow. like that. You can make it less saturated if you want, this light effect. Okay, and if some parts don't look really nice, like for example this one here, you can use the brush with a well, if you paint on the same layer with black, you will have no effect because the color dodge gets rid of the black color. But let me show you how it really looks different. Okay, looks like this light here is real because it bounces on this small object around here. I would still paint objects to a radius of about this, well, to this area surrounding, but don't paint that, well, even here I think. Let's see how it looks if we paint with this light there. Of course we need to paint with the lower, with the, well, darker effect, because the light here fades when it gets to hit that object there, but I'll see, it doesn't look bad. Maybe a yellower tone, like so. Okay, so that's how I painted this light effects. So I painted I created a sort of a casted light there by that glow, and then some accents of light, highlights hitting parts of the surrounding area there. Okay, and this is how I created the light effect. You can see it looks pretty realistic. Okay, so now we are ready to move on and add our woman. But before I do that, let me show you how I blurred the background. Okay, so in order to blur the background and have a realistic blur, I created a depth map, and it's really easy to do that. First, activate the quick selection tool, and well, let's deactivate it for a second, because first you need to select all the layers that are on the background. See that? And if you have them on a group like me, just duplicate the group, press the Alt key and drag it up, or right click and choose duplicate group. And now right click on it and choose merge group, and we will merge all the layers that we have for the group on its own. Okay, so we have an image of the background. Let me deactivate the rest of the layers. Okay, but I still have the grouping just in case I mess up or something. I have the layers that make up the group on a separate part there and on their own layers. So with this background copy, I'll activate the quick selection, the quick mask, sorry. Get the brush tool, use a soft brush and choose the black color, and the opacity and the float about 50. And just start painting. Now what I want is to have the background blurred and everything here, and then I want the blur to be to have a soft transition between the blur and the in focus area here. That's why I use a lower opacity. Well, you can use 100% if you want, like this, and paint the areas that are here in the background. Here on the trees, be careful, because otherwise the effect will be visible. If you can make a selection of the trees themselves, that would be great, because it will be a lot more accurate, but I will do it here like that with the mouse. Anyways, we're not going to blur this very much, just a few pixels, to keep the woman, well, to track the eye to the woman, which will be in focus. Okay, something like that. And here on the bottom, when we get to the bottom side, you'll see it. Just increase the hardness just a little bit. Everything that I paint here in red will be out of focus, okay? That's why I'm leaving the trees unpainted. Okay, so here on the bottom, I will decrease the opacity to, let's say, 50 and 50, more or less. Use a soft brush and just make a few passes like this. To have a softer transition. This will be our area that will be in focus here. Now here on this part of the you will see that this branch here should be in focus. If you're patient, you can paint out this branch here, but I will not do it. Okay, and maybe paint here with white. Again, increase the brush opacity and flow, and the hardness a bit as well. Oops, that was not good. If you painted an area that you don't want, like for example this, just switch color to white and paint. You'll paint it out. Okay. Like so. And let's keep painting here. I'll speed up the video here and we'll see you when I'm done. Okay, we're pretty much done, and what I want to do here is paint with a low opacity and flow to with a soft brush, of course, just to paint a bit this area here, corners and something like that. Okay, so as I said, this area that is red will be out of focus. You can see I have a soft transition here. This will be the transition from the in focus area from the out of focus area. And now I have the selection. I'll deactivate the layer mask and I'll go to select and choose save selection, and I'll name this depth of field. Okay, and my selection was saved here into the channels. You can see my selection here. Okay, and I will use this mask here to for my blurring, and I'll go back to RGB, select my background copy. So with my alpha channel there, I will go to filter, blur, and I'll choose lens blur. And the amount of blur here that I want to add is enough to get rid a bit of those edges there, but still be able to tell that this is the moon and that there are some branches here. On top of that, the lens blur is a lot more realistic than the Gaussian blur. You can see kind of creates a copy of the objects there. And the radius that I will add for this canvas size, I think 15 is okay, or even 10. Well, let's leave it on 15. But you can see this adds the blur to the entire image, and I don't want that. I want to use that mask to hide the effect here on this on the trees here. And let's leave it on 20. And maybe some of you will ask, why don't I apply the filter to the entire image and then use a layer mask? Now, the reason why I don't do that is because you will tell the difference. You will see a really weird effect. I will do this, and just to show you why I don't want to do that, I'll create a layer mask now. I'll zoom in. Okay, so now I would paint on this tree to reveal the effect, well, to hide the effect, sorry. It's a fake blur, okay? That's why I don't want to do it. So I will delete this, I'll delete the this again. I'll duplicate the group and then I will merge it again. Right click, merge group, and let's do the lens blur again. So go to filter, blur, and lens blur. But now if you take a look at the depth map section here where it says source, if you click here you will see a list of all the alpha channels that you have, and I'll choose depth of field. The alpha one I think is from the map that we created there, and you can see that what it does is it comes out inverted because we painted the background, not the object here. So check invert, and let's click OK, and let's see the result. It's not really as accurate as I wanted it to be because I made it really quick, but you can see the transition is a lot more natural here. Okay, I blurred too much this area. I should go here back to the channels right here and paint with white. What I will do is undo the lens blur, go to the channels and paint out this area using white. So I'll paint with white here to paint this out a bit because I blurred too much of the image, and like that. I think it will look a bit better now. And I have my depth of field selected and it's already inverted, and yeah, I'll use a bigger radius, 25. That was okay, and click OK. Now you can see that this background, maybe I removed too much of it. That's why it's good to use the quick mask, because you can see now this thing here is more, it's more blurred than this part here, and they're on the same plane. But anyways, I'll leave it like that. I don't want to spend more time here. So this is how I added so this is how I created this depth map. You can see it looks quite realistic. I should have painted this area here, so you just need to take a bit care of the edges, but you can see it's a pretty realistic result, a lot better than using the layer mask on here on the layer itself. Okay, so we are now ready to add our floating woman here. So open the floating woman image. I have it here on a new document. This is a PSB file. It's from the other document. I already have it extracted from the background. You can use the pen tool. You can use whatever technique you want. It looks like I got rid of this. Let's paint it back. And leave some space around the hair. As you can see, I left here because we will paint some of the hair back. I'll show you how to make a custom brush. So this is my extracted woman. I'll take it right here on my document, but okay, so let's name this layer woman, and I have her right here. Now I have to change the size because she's too big, so I'll press Ctrl Command T. Well, first I want to convert her into a smart object, just in case I don't like the size and I want to make it bigger. And let's see, I'm trying to compare her with the size of the lamp, which is right now a bit too big. About that big, I think. Let's see the original. Yeah, the lamp was a bit smaller, and the woman a bit smaller as well. But anyways, let's leave her something like that. Okay, now we have to make adjustments to her because she's too bright, is not matching the background at all. So the first thing I want to do is paint the hair back, and then take care of the color, contrast, and everything else. So get the brush tool, use a really soft brush, and paint with black to get rid of the edges and create a really soft edges. Really soft. Even use a smaller, a lower opacity and flow, lower than 100%, and just do something like this. Even if you paint too much, you can paint it back. Oops, that's not good. So I'll use a hard brush here to keep the edge of her clothing here, and use something really small here. Okay, and now with a low opacity and flow, I can take care of these edges here. Okay, now as I said, this is too soft, but I will paint it back in. I'll switch colors and just paint part of the hair back. This is too bright, so I'll just get rid of it. I can paint some single hairs here with the custom brush that I'll show you how to create. Okay, so we have the woman, and let's create a new layer, and we'll name it painted hair. And let's see if I have the brush here, but I'll show, no, I don't have it anymore. So I'll create a new layer. First I want to know more or less the size of this, so I'll make a selection like this, and you can see it's about 100 pixels. So I'll create a new document, 100 by 100 pixels, and I'll get the brush tool, increase the hardness to 100%, and the size to, let's say, 1. Let's see how that looks. Opacity and flow to 100%. That's really important. So, and the color set to black. Okay, so what you do here is paint a few dots, not many, just 3 or 4, and we will convert this into a brush, and we will use it to paint the hair back. Okay, you can use the mouse, it's a lot easier. Make sure not moving anything. Then decrease the size, and then increase it a bit just to create different types of hairs. Okay, so this is how it looks at 100%. Okay, maybe I would paint this one a bit bigger in the middle. Okay, so this will be our custom brush. I'll go ahead and go to edit and choose define brush preset. I'll name it hair, and that's it. Everything that is black will be our brush, and everything that is white will become invisible. Actually, you can see, let me change the color of it so you can see. Okay, great. Now we need to open the brush settings. You can do that if you go to window and choose brush, and you will open this panel here. And what you need to do here is set the spacing to 0, and then on shape dynamics, make sure you activate brush projection. We will not flip any of the settings here. We will not mess with the angle, and we will not scatter anything. Okay, I think we're good to go. You can change this around to see how the brush will work. We'll leave it like that. And now I'll get the brush tool, and I should have probably make it a bit smaller, but anyways. And now I'll sample from here and just paint like that. Sample colors from the hair itself, sample some brighter tones to make this sort of shapes like so, and make it a bit smaller and paint some hairs around here as well. See this? If you have a tablet, you can check on the shape dynamics, you can check the pen pressure to affect the size, to affect how the brush creates the hair. Okay, so you can make finer strokes. You can even create fading effects. Let's make it a little smaller and just make a few single hairs around here. Not looking nice. Now sample a darker tone to paint. Also keep in mind that this part of the hair on the right side will be illuminated by that lamp that we have there, so you can make your job a little easier and just paint this part of the hair with a brighter tone. If it doesn't blend nice, just drag the hair under, and that way because when you start to stroke here, if you use a bright tone, you will see where the stroke starts. Okay, I think it looks better than not having anything to start with. Okay, so I need more practice painting here, but anyways, so this is my painted hair. We're good to go, so let's move on. I see something on the woman's face which I would probably fix with a with the spot healing brush. A couple of dots there that I didn't like. Okay, so you can retouch her if you want to. Let's close this and save it. Okay, now she's cleaner. Okay, now let's make her fit this background a little better. The first thing that I added is a levels adjustment clipped to the woman layer. Okay, and here I changed the output, so I set the output levels of the blacks to 10 and the highlights to 173, just to make her look a little darker. Now these values depend on how much light you added here, so it depends on that. But if you want to make your job a little easier, you can create a check layer to check the brightness of the woman. So you can create a black and white adjustment layer, and that way you remove the color, and it's a lot easier for you to judge the brightness. You can see it kind of stands out too much, so let's leave this to where it was at 173 or 174. Now it looks a bit better than before. Okay, I try to check the highlights with the highlights of the background and make it look more or less like the background. Okay, so you can see that now it looks a bit better than before. We still need to adjust the color, but we will do that next. But first I want to add a new layer and paint some shadows over her body to kind of shift the light just a bit. I'll paint with this color, and I'll use a really low opacity and flow, 15 and 15. With the brush tool, make sure you select a normal brush, softness to 0, and just paint. I'm painting on the opposite sides of the parts of her body that are opposite to the light. Okay, so I want to make those parts a little darker. I will not paint too much on the face because I don't want it will not look nice. So I'm just painting on the top parts here. I'll probably change this to soft light, even though it seems like I'm not doing anything. You will see it once I deactivate the layer. Okay, that looks nice. Let me uncheck this. Okay, so it has some effect. As I said, less is more, so okay. Next, let's add a curves adjustment layer. And here I'll give you the exact values that I have. I hope they will match this. And if not, you have to tweak them. For the blue, I set this a bit higher up here. And then I have another point here, and the values are, let me clip this to the woman again, because I don't want to affect the background. Now, this point that I have here, these are the coordinates, are 183, and for the output is 179. Okay, then on the green, I have a single point here, and the numbers are for the input 144 and 141. And then for the red, I have a couple of points. For the first one, the input is 71 and output 77. And then for the second point, the input is 180 and the output is 187. Okay, so I added a bit of red, but it's too much. This should actually be lower, right there. It's 78, not 71. 78. Okay. Let me show the before and after. I made it just a touch. I gave it tone of red and yellow. Okay. And now for the RGB, I have another point here, and the input and output are 72 and 65. And then another point with input 124 and output 114, sorry. Okay, so again, before and after. I made her just a touch darker, maybe even too dark, so I would probably slide this a bit higher up. Okay, so now the woman blends in a little better. This is too strong, so I'll decrease this a bit. Looks better. Now let's move on with the light. What I will do is select all the layers that belong to the woman and group them with Ctrl-Command-G. Now I'll name this woman group, and now I'll create a new layer clipped to the group. Now this is something that I think you cannot do in Photoshop CS5 or previous, so what I would recommend is to do the same thing that we did with the background. So group everything inside the woman group, and then duplicate the group and merge the whole group and deactivate this just to have it as a backup, and then create this new layer and clip it to that merge group layer. Okay, and I'll name this woman light. Okay, change the blend mode to color dodge, get the brush tool, and we do the same that we did on the background, which is cast some lights over the woman, because the woman is also illuminated by that lamp. Let's see, well, that color is way too bright, so something darker like that. And let's see, opacity and flow, let's start with 20 and 20 and see how that looks. I'll start with the hair using a soft brush and just paint some light there on the hair. That's too dark. We need a brighter tone, like so. And let's try with this one, and that looks better. Even brighter for the tips right here. See this on the hair? We want it to be bright, but it's too red. Let's make it a bit more yellow. I'll delete it and start again. Yeah, that's better. But 20 and 20 is too little. Let's pump it up a bit. Yeah, that's better. And now a bit of a redder tone, like so, and paint. Oops, that's too much. It's kind of sensitive, the hair, so be careful. Like that, and now some darker tones for the inner parts of it. Paint more like this, and then you can use the eraser tool. A really soft eraser. You can see 20 and 20 for the flow, and then just get rid of the excess of effect. I think that looks nice, but it's too red, I think. Let's make it a bit more yellow, like so. Okay. Now on the same layer you can paint the edges. You can use a smaller brush, higher opacity and flow, and let's see, maybe a brighter tone, and just paint, edges. Paint the edges like this. It's too saturated. I want less color. Oops, that's too strong. Darker tone. So it's the same over and over again. The only thing you need to do is just adjust the color, adjust the tone, and that's pretty much it. See, now here it starts to look more yellowish, so I'll use a redder tone. Here this is too red, I have to switch back to something a bit more yellowish. Just the tips like that. In photography these are called rim lights, I think. And they are usually made with a flash. But anyways, that's okay. Maybe I could have used a bigger brush and paint a bit more light. You can also get, in the past I got similar effects using the inner shadow, layer style. So you can double click on the woman and create an inner shadow all over her, and you will get the same effect. Well, lately I don't know why, but I like to make things manually. I start to enjoy creating things with my own hands. Oh, that's too bright. Okay, and now with a really low opacity, oops, that was not nice, I want to move it. With a really low opacity and flow, I will paint over her dress here, well, for right here, like so. Maybe it's even too much. I'll use the eraser to get rid of some of that effect. And it's too yellow, it's too orangey. I want a yellower tone like that. And now use the eraser to remove some of it. Okay, see that? I think it's better than without it. But it's too much here on her arms. You can see I'm changing the opacity and the flow of the brush with the keyboard. I'm not typing here, except, well, sometimes, but if you have the brush or the eraser or anything, just type on the numeric keypad like 20 or 52 and it types it. And if you want to change the flow, just hold the shift key and type the number you want and it will type it on the flow box there. Great, what else? I think we're pretty much done with the woman. So yeah, you can add some shadow right there under her body, but it didn't look really that nice. So I'll try to make, yeah, just like that, really soft shadow, like so. But I want it to have a bit of a yellower tone, but more unsaturated, like that. So we're pretty much done now. I had a book there standing. I will not do it. What I will do is show you how I added those firefly effects. I will create a new layer and I'll fill it with black, and I'll go to filter, noise, and choose add noise. Make sure you have this check monochromatic and go to filter, and let's go to the filter gallery, and this is the effects that I added. You can see I have the plaster filter on it, and then I have also the fresco, but I don't like how this looks because it kind of destroys the edges, but well, actually let's leave it like that. So add the plaster with the settings that I have here: image balance 28, smoothness 9, and then the fresco with 0, 0, and 3, and click OK. And the amount of points that you add here are controlled on the plaster filter. Just change one of the sliders, then you will see that you have more or less dots there. Now I'll change the blend mode of this to screen, and I'll probably blur this a little bit, not much, just to make this points a bit softer. Let's go to filter, blur, and let's choose lens blur and see how that looks, because it's a bit more realistic. And a radius of about, let's say 4%, well, 4 pixels. And now I want to get rid of the darker points, so I'll press Ctrl Command L to open the levels, and I'll move the darkness slider to the right, and also the midtones, and then increase the highlights to make some of those points stand out a little more. Okay, something like that. I'm just increasing the contrast. Okay, so I have now this points here, which will be my fireflies, and I'll change this blend mode back to normal. Well, actually no, let's leave it on screen, and press and hold the Alt key and click the layer mask to hide everything. And now I'll get the brush tool. So what you do now is start to reveal some of those points randomly. Paint with white, make sure opacity and the flow are to 100%, and just paint somewhere and just paint like that until you find a dot, and then move somewhere else, paint, and keep painting until you find another point, another one there. Let's see if we have some other points around here. Well, this is you can make it easier if you double click and just decrease the density a bit, just to see where the dots are, and then paint over them to reveal them, like so. Maybe some other points there, this one here. just a few ones, not too many, like that. And now I'll increase the density back to 100%. See that? Now I have some fireflies here. Well, of course, we need to add more things here. Now let's rename this to fireflies and create a new layer on top of it and name it fireflies glows, and get the brush tool, a soft brush, and let's see, paint some yellow, unsaturated yellow effects like this. Use a middle tone, more or less. Let's see how that works, and paint there. Well, it's too, well, change the blend mode to screen. I forgot to mention that, but it's too bright. I want a darker tone. Zoom in a bit more, and just, even that is too strong. I want really small glow, like that, but more saturated, like so. Too bright. And just adjust the brush size to the size of the dot that you have there. Keep in mind that this is a 6000 pixels document. When we make this smaller, it will pretty much, you cannot tell if this is actually a bug or something that I painted myself. Okay, I forgot this one here. Okay, now we have the light glows there. You can select the layer, press Ctrl Command U, check colorize, increase the saturation and decrease the lightness a bit. You'll start to see how they start to take a color. Let's make them yellow, like this. Okay, just colorize this and use a green tone. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Okay, we're done now. What I will do next is make the final adjustments. I press Shift, Alt, Command, and E, and wait for the stamp to be created. On a PC, you press Shift, Control, Alt, and E to make this. And I'll check, well, I'll create the final, I'll convert this into a smart object and go to Filter. Now it takes a lot of time to process this because it's a big document. So I'll go to Filter, Render, and choose Lighting Effects. I'll use a spotlight and like this, but I want a round spotlight. So I'll move this one here where the light is, but it's the intensity is too strong. It looks like two spotlights work nice. But it was too intense. Yeah, that was the problem. Okay, and with this one, which is a big spotlight, you can see I have the colorize set to a lower tone and the color just to give it a warmer touch. And maybe increase the intensity just a bit. Let's see the preview before and after. Yeah, I want to decrease a bit the hot spot, make it smaller. And set the gloss to 0, intensity to 32. I think that looks okay. Let's accept the changes and wait for the filter to be applied. Okay, so before and after, not a big change, but we focused a bit the light on the woman. And now let's make the final adjustments. Great, now for the final adjustments, I'll start with the selective color. This is just to give a final color and contrast effect. I'll start with the blacks because I want to make them a bit brighter. What you do with this is get that low contrast effect. Okay, and I'll add a bit of blue by sliding this yellow slider to the left, not much, just 3%. and a bit of green, -1. And on the neutrals, I'll add a bit of yellow. You can see it controls the overall image, and maybe a bit of magenta, just 2. And for the highlights, I think, well, it's not affecting them too much because we hardly have highlights here on the image. I will go to yellows though and decrease the amount of magenta and the amount of yellows because this was looking too reddish, okay, and I didn't like that too much. Okay, let's leave it like that. Let's move on and add a solid color adjustment. Use a really dark tone like this and change the blend mode to exclusion. Okay, see the effect? It's too strong. Let's make it even darker, like that. Now a vibrance adjustment. This is just to, I'll increase the saturation and decrease the vibrance. See the effect? If you want it more saturated, you can leave it more saturated, but I like it slightly desaturated. And then the last thing, a gradient map. And I think I used the photographic toning here. I'm not sure. Let's see if I can find that gradient map that I used. It was something like this. I'm not really sure which one it was, but I'll leave this one. So leave the back on the blend mode as it is, and use about 5% or 8. See how that looks. I don't want to have it too bright. Okay, and this is the final result. I'll select everything, control and edit, copy, merge, and I'll just paste that on a new document because I want to show you how it looks after you crop it. Okay, so I'll use the crop tool and just make a smaller crop like this. Some composition, maybe something like that. Okay, and I'll make it smaller, about 2000 pixels, just so that you can see those fireflies. Maybe smaller ones look a bit better, but you can see the hair looks nice. You can see this dust here looks quite nice. It gives more depth. You can add some falling leaves, maybe here out of focus on the first, well, here in front of the camera, just to give even more depth. But I hope you enjoyed this manipulation. I know the tutorial was really long, but I hope you learned something new. And that's it for today. We'll see you on my next tutorial. If you like this video, just you can share it, you can embed it on your website, and that's pretty much all I can say. That's it. See you next time. Goodbye.